Today, we are incredibly fortunate to have a lot of websites, resources, and compendiums of D&D material. Information about old rulebooks, modules, and most anything else you could want to know about is out there to be found, provided you know where to look. What the internet doesn't have, and almost certainly didn't ask for, is a video series in the same vein as those websites where an idiot flips through the pages of D&D books and rants about the histories behind them. Welcome to the D&D Video Archive. The world of Greyhawk's first release came in the form of this 32-page portfolio in August of 1980. Ironically, for as many issues as TSR had in terms of how the business was run, one place where they could be commended is in the way that they frequently communicated with their players and consumers. Now, it required that one jump through the hurdles and pay the associated fees required to talk to anyone that wasn't your next-door neighbor in the 80s and 90s, but between their postbox, frequent presence at conventions and trade shows, and the duo of Dragon and Dungeon magazines, TSR did communicate a lot, to their credit. One downside of those communicative efforts, however, was that it meant that the company had a bit of a habit of oversharing and subsequently under-delivering. TSR, going back as early as the start of '79, and oftentimes from the word of the master himself, that being Greyhawk creator E. Gary Gygax, had been promising a release chronicling the world for quite some time. What eventually made its way to consumers was this folio, which, in the nicest terms possible, could be described as something as a summary or Cliff Notes version of what could be found in the world of Greyhawk, as opposed to a proper encyclopedia. I'm sure I don't need to tell the average D&D fan that 32 pages is far from enough to adequately explain everything that the average fan or DM might want from this sort of release. Truncated as it is, the real pearl of this clam is the two-piece map of the Fla Ness done by one Darlene Pacol. The map covers a pretty good chunk of part of Auric, one of the continents on Orth, containing landmark locations such as the city of Greyhawk itself, the Great Kingdom, and the Kingdom of Ferrondi, as well as various stretches of wildlands and seas. The accompanying pamphlet spends the overwhelming majority of its length detailing the specifics of these locations, listing sizes, relevant political and geographical aspects, as well as the types of inhabitants one might be liable to find within. It also contains a rundown of more worldly affairs, such as a breakdown of the lunar cycles, time and day names, and an entire list of runes translating to various meanings, mainly for the prospective dungeon master. It contains almost nothing related to the actual playing of the game itself. Any situation which may pertain to gameplay instead directs the reader to the relevant sourcebook. In contrast to most other campaign-setting releases, this release heartily encouraged the Dungeon Master to expand upon the information present and utilize it to furnish their own settings. This was likely due to the fact that the majority of the world of Greyhawk went uncovered in this particular release, a fact which would not be rectified until a more proper, full-fledged version of the release, a complete box set, would materialize in 1983. Despite being one of the first releases related to an official D&D campaign setting, so long as we don't include Dave Arneson's Blackmoor, which was originally meant for classical wargaming before it was adapted for Dungeons & Dragons, this folio is neither all that difficult to find nor exorbitantly pricey. That it isn't so coveted potentially has to do with the fact that it was undeniably supplanted just a few years later, but also because while the cardboard folder is nice, you'll be hard-pressed to find one in particularly good condition nearly 50 years down the line.